to another edition of Active Living. Today we're very fortunate to have the Township Supervisor from Orion Township with us, Mr. Chris Barnett. Chris, welcome to our show, Chris.
Thank you for the invite. I'm thrilled to be here today.
Well, great. Well, you know, I think we've got an interesting show today. We're going to talk about the road situation in Lake Orion and Orion Township. And we're going to be really discussing what's going on in the township because we've got a couple of big projects coming up. We've got a lot of people in the township talking about what's going on, what's going to happen, what's going to happen to the roads, how can we get to work in the morning, and so on. So I'd like to start with your view as to what's happening.
Right. So 2016, 17, and 18, we're going to be fixing some roads and testing a lot of patience. I'm just going to be honest and put it right out there. There's no question that our community is growing, and we continue to grow. I think it's important for healthy communities to continue to have growth. But two of our major corridors are currently, by all traffic analyses are failing. And those corridors are the Lapeer Road, M24, and Baldwin Road. Those are our two most traveled roads in the township. We get about 50,000 or so average vehicle daily count on Lapeer Road or M24, and we're about 25,000 on Baldwin.
Wow.
So those roads, quick math is pretty easy to tell that we have a lot of pass-through traffic. So there's there's about 36,000 people that live within our 36 square mile Orion Township, and obviously that includes babies all the way up to senior citizens who don't drive. So we don't have 50,000 cars in the township. We don't have 25,000 cars in the township. We probably have 15 to 20,000 cars total, and those cars don't all drive down Baldwin or Lapeer Road every day. So, that tells us that we have a lot of people that live in Oxford and Metamora and Lapeer that use those roads to get to I-75 and get to their jobs and shop and things like that. So, so not all of the growth, and so these projects aren't required just because of the housing growth in our community. We've had some, but not enough to cause us to need to do these projects. So, like I said, I think at the onset, these projects both have been needed to be done for many years, even when we were in the downturn of our economy.
Sure.
And now is the time that the stars are aligning, and it just so happens that we're going to have 3 straight years of construction projects.
And they're all aligning at the same time, so we're going to do both projects basically at the same time.
Well, the good news is that they're going to be back to back.
Oh, they are. They're not going to run concurrently.
No.
Then. Okay, that's good news.
That is really good news. And so, about a year ago, we were starting to have some issues with right-of-way on M24.
Right.
And with that project, which has always sort of been on the docket, and I made it very clear to the folks at MDOT that there is absolutely no way we can push this project past 2016 because once we found out that the funding had lined up for Baldwin Road for 2017, I can't imagine having both of our two busiest north-south roads under construction at the same time. So the plan for now is, and we have a good jump start because of the mild winter, and moving a lot of the utilities and things like that on Lapeer Road, is to have Lapeer Road project be started and completed this year. Actually, technically started in 15, as you could see some of the utility relocation that's been happening along near Silver Bell intersection, but that should be completed this year. And then we would start the Baldwin project, the actual road construction, in 2017. And that's a 2-year project, the Baldwin project.
And where does the Lapeer Road project actually start and stop?
Right. So let's talk for a few minutes about that project. So that project, and road funding has been a topic of high interest in our state.
Oh yeah,
the last several years, and it can become very political. To me, it's not a political issue. It's we have to fund our infrastructure.
Absolutely.
People like to make it political, but there's no question that we are, if not the lowest, one of the bottom 3 lowest, and that's where you can kind of get into picking at straws. But funded states in the union of 50 for road funding. So. We're able to do, there's different buckets of money. So the Lapeer Road Fund project is coming from a different bucket of money than the Baldwin Road project. And I'll get into that when we talk about Baldwin.
Okay.
But basically, the Lapeer Road project is it's been on the master plan for MDOT for many years to actually potentially widen the road. We don't have the funds to do that at this time.
Okay.
But what we are going to be able to do is the major intersections that cause the bottlenecks and most of the backups are going to be completely redesigned.
Okay.
So
does that mean we're going to go to roundabouts there too?
we are not going to have roundabouts
okay.
on M24, so
All
don't
right.
worry about that. I know that's a very hot button issue. So the boundaries of that project, back to your original question, are
Right.
going to be at Harmon Road, which for layman's terms
Right.
is the road that borders the north side of the palace.
Right.
So that's in Auburn Hills. And then all the way to Golden Gate, which is, I think, the 2nd Street north of Clarkson Road. And again, for layman's terms, it's near Old Detroit or Forest Cantina,
Right.
the Malash used car dealership. So that's the boundaries of that project.
Okay.
And what that project consists of is all the intersections will be redesigned, which is a good thing. You will not be able to make a left-hand turn on the corridor, which is a problem by any traffic experts' standards, is when you have the directional timing for a green arrow left,
Right.
it adds an additional cycle to those lights. And if you're familiar, Silver Bell, for example, every direction has their own turn to go.
Right.
Which really slows things down. And you know, it compounds when you have a rush hour, when you're adding 60 or 90 seconds to every interval.
Sure.
That just backs up traffic further and further
Right.
north in the morning and south in the evening.
Right.
So just that change in itself will greatly improve traffic flow.
So are they going to remove like a left-hand turn?
Correct.
Let's say you're going south on Lapeer and you want to make a left-hand turn on Silver Bell. It means, are you going to do like a Michigan left?
You're going to have to do a Michigan left. And the best
Okay.
way for me to describe this close to us is a road that probably many people that are watching us today have traveled hundreds of times, is Telegraph Road.
Right.
If you think of Telegraph Road between Square Lake Road and basically 696,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
the same concept.
Okay.
You can't make a left-hand turn. Everything's a Michigan left. And at the major intersections, they're going to have dual Michigan left. So 2 lanes that are going to be cycling, so it will help improve stacking and things like that. So I'm not a traffic expert. In the next year or two, I feel like I probably will be. I'm becoming one. I'm learning how to read these studies and things like that. And I brought some pictures along. I'm sure they're up on the screen for people to look at, but what that's going to look like. And so, yes, we're going to really fix the issues that lie on Lapeer Road. Our worst intersection by traffic data in the township is actually Clarkston and Lapeer Road. And the way that that's looked at is the TIA, or Traffic Information Authority, maybe I have that wrong, they put out a study, and it's based on police reports, essentially, accident data. And you know, they give different scores, and if you have a fatal accident, it takes the score way up high, and if you have a fender bender, it's not as high. But that's kind of ranked our worst intersection. The second worst intersection in the township is Brown and Baldwin Road.
Okay.
If you talk to any parent that has students that go to school at Stadium Drive Elementary, Scripps Middle School, Lake Orion High School, or Lake Orion Baptist Church and School, they will tell you unequivocally that Scripps and Lapeer Road is the worst intersection, not only in Orion Township, but probably the state. I get so many complaints about that intersection, and it's a bad one. Thankfully, most of the traffic incidents are minor, but you know, it's a difficult area. There's not enough stacking in the morning. You know, so many of our student population drive themselves to school. It's the type of community that we are. You know, people buy their kids cars and their kids want to drive to school, and my daughter is one of them. You know, I've always been tried to encourage. You know, if we had more students that rode the bus, it would probably help those areas, but people choose that, and I'm guilty of it. You know, it's hard, you know, when your kid says, all my friends drive. So, but the tough thing about that intersection is 3 months out of the year, it's probably the safest, best intersection in the township during the summer because there's little traffic.
Sure.
But more than 10% of our population during the school year is on that campus.
I know trying to get out of there is really a pain in the
is.
butt because, you know, it takes you 3 or 4 light changes to get through there if you're coming from the school out to Lapeer.
And it does, and that's accurate. Yeah. So the other issue, so that's going to all be resolved. You won't be able to turn left down Scripps Road anymore. That's going to be a Michigan left.
Okay.
So again, people, it's interesting because especially when we get to Baldwin Road, but on this project as well, when people come to see me in my office, I have these big maps on my walls in the conference room where you can actually see these projects, the entire scope of them. and everyone's an expert. That will never work. It's going to make traffic worse. But
Right.
you know, people have to trust that so much time and engineering goes into these decisions to make sure that what we're doing is going to improve traffic and improve safety,
Right.
as opposed to the opposite, you know, where it's going to take people longer and things like that. So I'm confident in the engineers and the studies that
Right.
have been done. I'm also confident it's going to really try people's patience.
Well, I'm sure during construction it'll be really, really trying the patience as well.
Yeah, no question.
When they do the construction, they're going to do like the south lanes and make the north lane both directions, or
So we've been
the plan?
you know, my office has been as proactive as we possibly
Okay.
can be on both of these projects, and we'll stick again on Lapeer for a little bit. You know, the major areas of disruption are going to be those intersections.
Right.
First, Silver Bell Road, Scripps Road, and Clarkson Road. Those are the three intersections that are getting the most work. The other thing that's going to happen is all those funny. Have you ever been in one of those turnarounds in the middle of the median where you're using the same turnaround as the south and you're going north?
Oh,
so you're kind of fighting each other and playing
Right.
chicken, and then you're trying to peek around those cars that are
Right,
lined up
right,
and see
right.
if it's safe to go out in the 55-mile-an-hour
Right,
oncoming traffic.
right.
Those are going to be all gone.
That's great.
So a lot of safety improvements, but
Well, the 4 lanes basically stay the same between the intersections.
We would love to, I would love to widen it to 6, you know,
Right.
3 and 3, and it just adds about another $15 million that we don't have to the
Right.
project. So that's not going to happen. But in the intersections,
That'll help.
specifically Clarkson Road and Silver Bell, it will actually widen to 3 lanes, both north and south.
Right.
Approaching the intersections, so that'll allow people to turn and things like that, and then it'll narrow back down to 2 once you get past the intersections. So again, we've seen modeling, actually computer modeling, where they have the cars and they kind of program, and the
Right,
cars make their
right.
own decisions, and these real high-tech programs to see how that works. And so that the widening of those lanes, those intersections at those points, combined with the lack of being able to make direct lefts,
Right.
those two things together are going to just greatly improve
Terrific.
the flow. So again, back to your question, you can see I'm segueing. There's so much information here to cover. We have been working very proactively with MDOT on this project to implore them that they make it as painless as possible, knowing that it's going to be painful.
Right.
One of the things, because we have over 50,000 cars a day that are on this corridor, you know, and a lot of that's during the rush, the morning and afternoon rush.
Right.
We can't shut those down even to 1 lane, because we would be backed up to I-69 and Lapeer.
Right.
So we have a commitment from MDOT and their contractor that we're going to maintain 2 southbound lanes during the morning rush.
Yeah.
So it's a 2 or 3 hour window in the morning
Okay.
that they're going to keep both lanes open.
Okay.
And then conversely, in the afternoon rush, we're going to have 2 northbound lanes open. So it makes it difficult for the
Yep.
contractor, because they're trying to do things during the day and things like
Sure.
that, and on the weekends. But it's imperative for people to, you know, that are trying to get through our community, that
Yeah.
are either
I mean,
passing through or.
There's really no real good alternative, is there?
I wish that if I had my choice, I would close us at our Oxford border, and we'd only allow township residents to use the 24 corridor until construction was complete. I don't think that's going to be
That's
possible.
not going to happen.
So, you know, I think people will have to get creative and find,
Sure.
you know, alternative routes as best as possible. You know, for those on the east of 24, there's been a lot of improvements to the Squirrel Road corridor.
Right.
So
Right.
that'll be a great way to get down to 59 and I-75,
Right.
and even from north of town, you know, you can take Orion Road to Adams Road and kind of snake through that way.
Sure.
A lot of people will be taking that route, I think. And then obviously we have Baldwin Road on the west, which is already congested, and
Right.
Joslyn, but you know, it's going to be it'll be a trying time. So, so the other proactive thing we've done, and we may get a little flack for this, but I'm okay with it, is that we have waived our noise ordinance for this
Okay.
project, which allows the contractors to work past our normal hours of operation, which I believe, and I'm going from memory here, I believe is like 5 or 6 in the evening,
Right.
and then no noise on Sundays. So what we're allowing them to do is essentially work whenever they need to work,
Okay.
with the caveat that if we get a lot of complaints, we have the right to revoke that privilege from them. I really believe that if you ask, 100 Orion residents to take Lapeer Road, would you be okay with them working evenings and sometimes nights, even weekends,
Right.
if it helps make the project go quicker and will help potentially your daily commute? I think probably you'd have 90 of them say that's a great idea. It just makes common sense.
Just refresh my memory. The north end of the project is where?
Golden Gate Street. Essentially, they're going to go just north of the Clarkson Road intersection.
Okay.
So they're gonna widen that and taper it out, and so it goes up to Golden Gate. So
Okay.
and also some of the other benefits of the project that I'm excited about. Obviously, we're not just getting the improvements. The whole road will be resurfaced, so it'll be like a brand new road. Probably the one big thing that I'm going to talk about Baldwin that I'm most excited about is also happening on Lapeer Road is we're going to have a safety path on the entire east side
Great.
of the road.
Fantastic.
Originally, when the plans were drawn, we were going to have the safety path on both the east and west side of the
Right.
road, and we'd love to have both sides. But the project's over budget.
Okay.
So the first thing that goes are things like sidewalks and
Right.
things like that. We're also gapping a few sections, even on the east side of the road, right by G's Pizza. Green Shield, there's a drainage course that goes through there. We're applying for a grant with the schools. It's called Safe Routes to Schools. It's an expensive, we have to build a bridge over this drainage area.
Right.
And so we told them to gap that, and we're working collaborative with the schools to get this grant. So
Right.
eventually, you'll be able to, if a student really wants to ride their bike to Culver's from high school,
Right.
they'll be able to do that safely. And right now, if you travel along there, you can't.
You can't.
Right.
Right. You're right.
So again, that's another benefit when this is done, that it'll be nice connectivity all the way up and down 24.
Well, let me ask you one question. We've got this traffic now. We speeded up the traffic coming north on M24. We get to the middle of Lake Orion, and what happens when we've got a traffic light there at I can't remember the
Broadway,
street.
Flint Street.
Flint Street,
Flint,
right? And is that going to back up the traffic for 4 miles, or is there a plan to hopefully speed the traffic through that area?
They will be, through the construction project, they're going to be doing the best they can. They'll be tweaking timing of lights. I mean, they're going to do everything they can do to make the project go as smooth as possible. But
I'm really talking about after the project
Okay.
is complete.
That's part of the whole corridor improvement plan. I mean,
Right.
they're working on all those things all the way from Oxford. Phase 2 of this project actually goes from Golden Gate or Clarkson Road up to north of the Meyer, or in Meyer,
Okay.
we're in Oxford where it widens back to 4 lanes.
So you've answered my question. That's phase 2.
That's true. Yes, that's phase 2, and phase 2 has $0 allocated to it at least in the next 5 or 6 years. So phase 2 might be way down the road.
Right.
And there we go back to the road funding,
Right.
dilemma.
Okay.
So, but yes, that will all be addressed, and they currently will do things like that even now, and they might address timing of some lights in certain areas, because
Right.
that typically is somewhat of a bottleneck coming from the north in the morning and then
Right.
south in the afternoon.
Right.
And that will probably still be somewhat of an issue.
Okay. Let's talk about Baldwin Road.
Okay. So Baldwin Road. All right. So when I remember when I moved here and I lived in Keatington, that was in 1998 we moved in, thinking about personally, and I didn't know we were even a township and we had a supervisor or anything else like that. I just knew Baldwin Road was terrible back then.
Yep.
So it's been 18 years now, and it's still terrible. It was in need of widening back then, and it still is now. So I'm proud of the Baldwin Road project for a couple reasons. It's happening.
Right.
It's funded. We did a lot of work to get to that point. I joke around with our current sitting representative. We have the road commission has a 3-person board, and one of them is a former township trustee, and
Right.
and Eric Wilson is a friend.
Right.
He still is on that board, and he sarcastically told me 2 years ago that it won't happen in my lifetime.
Really?
So the good news is, hopefully I can live the next couple years here. I don't know. I'm starting to get more gray hair, but it is happening, and it's a huge project. It's north of $30 million. It's going to go from basically, people know restaurants, so I use restaurants.
Right.
It's going to go from Panera Bread
Okay.
or Taco Bell, whatever
Right,
you like
right,
better,
right.
just north of Brown Road there, all the way up to north of Kroger or Walden Road.
Baldwin Road. Okay.
So it's about just over 2 miles, and it's about $30 million. So that's a lot of money. It's a huge project. Just the right-of-way acquisition, purchasing property and right-of-way is almost $15 million.
I can believe that because, you know, you've got some pretty nice properties there.
Right.
There's a big church right there. Is that going to have to be?
That's still in discussion. They're negotiating with the road commission. I don't know where that left off.
Okay.
I don't know where it sits today. That's in phase 2.
Okay.
So let me just talk to you a little bit about the phasing of the project.
All right.
It's going to be the reason we're pushing so hard in helping MDOT get Lapeer Road done in 1 year
Right.
is because this project is slated to start in 2017,
Okay.
which is a year from now. There is concerns that the Lapeer Road project could be more than one construction season, and we want to do everything in our power to get that done so that that road is moving swimmingly.
Right. Right.
So that when we start closing down parts of Baldwin Road, we can defer a lot of the traffic to the newly improved M24 corridor. So phase 1, which is 2017, which they're already going to start doing work this spring. You'll see them moving utilities. They're not going to be tearing up the road or closing lanes, but you know, moving power lines and moving gas mains and things. You'll see them digging on the sides of the roads. Starts about 1 year from now.
Okay.
And that's going to go from Morgan Road, or you know, Panera Bread,
Right.
Kohl's Shopping Center, up to just north of Gregory.
Okay.
And some of the buildings, some of the prominent buildings that will be taken down because the road will be taking their place is the gas station that currently sits on the corner of Gregory.
Gregory, right.
There is a salon down at the, what's the road, Jordan, just north of Taco Bell. That's going to be taken down.
Right.
And a couple other residential type buildings. So the road's going to be 4 lanes wide. And it's going to have 5 roundabouts, and that's the part where I get mixed reaction. Matter of fact, I posted something on Facebook, the power of social media, about the, Oakland Press just did a little interview with me last week, and within 24 hours, there were 15,000 clicks on that.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah, and a lot of comments, So the roundabout concept is an interesting one.
You don't want to summarize those comments, do you?
A lot of hatred toward me. That's a summary. A lot of mean names.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Things you tell your kids not to tell their friends in school, or
Well, we got to go through it. At some point, you have to go through it.
I mean,
right?
here's the thing about roundabouts. Let's talk about roundabouts for a minute. The first time I drove through one, I was in England, and I was confused.
And you're going the other direction.
Yeah, and I was on the wrong side of the road, and I didn't understand it. But if you go to England, or if you go to a lot of other areas,
Right.
If you go travel into Indiana as a state, there's some cities. Carmel, Indiana, I don't think has I think their claim to fame is they don't have one traffic light.
Well, I'm from New England, and there's a lot of them up there.
So they work. The
Yes.
reason that the road commission puts roundabouts in their projects, and if you go down the M5 corridor, if you go through West Bloomfield,
Right.
Rochester Hills, Tinkin
Yep.
Road just got done last year, pretty much any new road that's being built with federal dollars, which this is a federally funded project. It's federal aid eligible. So 80% of the funds are federal dollars.
Great.
And then 20% is a local match, so 10% is from Oakland County Road Commission and 10% from Orion Township. So we have more than $3 million that we're spending that we've been saving
Right.
for this project. But roundabouts, the reason they are being put in is they work. They do flow traffic properly once people know how to use them, and they're a lot safer. You won't have a 50-mile-an-hour T-bone at a roundabout.
Right.
And that's the first reason they put them in is safety. And everything, all the road funding dollars are driven by safety. You know, I got a lot of flack a year or two ago when Joslin Road got paved in front of Township Hall because
Right.
it was not in terrible disrepair. But we were able to get federal safety grant dollars, and that project installed guardrails, the annoying little ribbon strips that when you go off the side or in the middle, they wake you up.
Right.
And that was because, unfortunately, if you remember a few years back, we had a fatal car accident through the curves by Lake 16 of
Right.
a mom that was driving her students to school in Oxford.
Right.
And so that's how we were able to get funding to get that road repaved. Now, I think it would have been a lot smarter to put that pavement on Walden Road.
Amen, brother.
But parts of that road
Yeah,
where
oh,
if you're
absolutely.
driving the speed limit, your head hits the ceiling because the bumps are so high.
Yeah.
But that's kind of that's how this funding works, and to me it is frustrating. But we have to
Yeah.
leverage the dollars wherever we can get them. So if we can get Joslin Road paved, we're not going to turn that away, to spite ourselves. So
Sure.
So Safety drives these, drives a lot of the funding, and that's why the roundabouts. I can tell you that it's going to be 4 lanes. So it's 2 lanes north and southbound.
Right.
All the roundabouts are 2-lane roundabouts. And, you know, I sarcastically say this, and I even posted this on my Facebook post, was the Mythbusters group did a 20-minute segment. Oh, no, maybe it was 10. They did a significantly long segment on roundabouts. They
Right.
tested the roundabouts versus a traditional intersection. And they showed that they moved 20% more traffic, you know, in the same amount of time.
Fantastic.
Now they tested that against a not a stoplight situation, a 4-way stop, and some people argue that it could sway it one way or another. But you know, I think that once people learn how to use them, and there will be a learning curve, but once people learn how to use them, it will be a much better flow and much better situation. And I can tell you, I met with a couple of the business owners just yesterday, and they're thrilled about it because, for example, if Great Lakes Athletic
Great Lakes
Club,
would be very thrilled, I would think.
that's who I met with. And
Good,
you know,
good
they said,
strategic planning. I like that.
and they said they could not, you know, they can't. It's going to be a pain in the butt while it's under construction for
Right.
their clients, and they're concerned about it. But you can't turn left out of there during rush
right.
hour. You just can't.
You're right.
You know, I've done it. I've tried myself. You almost have to go right and find some place to turn around or get to a stoplight to go left.
Right.
So it's going to be good. It's going to take a lot of education. Some people in our community have told me they've never been through one roundabout.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying what I hear.
Going to be interesting. Well, listen, we're getting down to the end of our program here, Chris. To summarize, it sounds like we got a lot of projects going on. We're going to have a lot of disruption in the township. Hopefully, it's for the good, long-term good anyway. We've got some great plans for both M24 as well as Baldwin Road. So we got a bright future.
I think we do, George. I appreciate you inviting me on to talk about this today. The only thing I want to add before we wrap is one of the things I'm the most excited about in either of these projects is the Baldwin corridor and the pedestrian friendliness we're going to be able to, you know, the amenities we're going to be able to add.
Great.
Both sides of that road are going to have sidewalks. We're working on a tax capture. It's not a tax increase to anyone that lives in the area, but we're able to take some of the money from the new investment that's coming in the area
Right.
and dump that right back into our corridor. An area that we've seen this close by is Sashabaw Road in Clarkston or Independence Township. And what this is going to allow us to do is have nice grassy medians, not the 4-foot weeds that collect
Right.
all the you know, garbage, pedestrian lighting. So you're going to have a really nice opportunity if you live anywhere along that corridor to walk or ride your bike to Tim Hortons or down to Panera Bread and have a very safe experience. So it's going to give us a real village feel, and I think that's something that our residents will really like. So that's probably my most exciting thing about this, besides the roundabouts.
Well, Chris, thank you very much for coming on our program today. It's been great having you. We've got a wealth of information that we can pass on now to our viewers, and this is it for the show today.
Well,
thank you very much.
Again, thank you so much, and if anyone has any questions, you can always contact me in my office and come visit and see me and see these maps up close and personal.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.